Hey everybody, it's another snippet session from SecTor. This is the Liquidmatrix Security Digest podcast television snippet series from SecTor episode number 4322. This would be Mike Rothman. He's from Securosis. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
You do security. You've done it for a while. Pragmatically, I've heard.
Yes.
You're here at SecTor because
I love the Canadian.
you love the Canadian. That's good. You did that almost as well in actual Canadian. That's terrific. You were doing a talk this morning, and unfortunately I was unable to attend.
You were speaking.
They like it when the other speakers are on stage.
Yeah.
So can you give me the elevator speech on your talk?
Yeah, you bet. So what I did was talk about BYOD, right? Bring your own device, but I kind of turned the words a little bit and said before it becomes your own demise, I guess. So just a little play on words here.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
But the general concept is a lot of people just want to jump to enforcement, right? But there are a couple of important things to do before then. One being risk assessment for what devices you have, what do they have access to, is that good, is that bad, and then a set of policies behind that to give you, as an organization, an opportunity to potentially enforce some things. Most people just say, oh, hey, I'm going to buy MDM, or I'm going to look at mobile app management, or I'm going to, force everybody to use a container or what have you, without a real concept of the risk or the policies that are going to drive that. So I did all mess of those
I saw a tweet go by there. At SecTor, they put all the tweets up on a big board in the main hall, and I saw a tweet go by, and somebody said, they quoted you, perhaps loosely, that you said, have you contemplated the risk of having someone's personal device on your network, because a personal device comes with personal data?
Yes.
So, almost the common discussion in InfoSec, of course, is that you're causing risk to the business by allowing business data on personal devices. You're suggesting that you can cause a risk to the business by having personal data on the business device.
No, so
Or
it
on
was
the
taken a
business
little
prem.
bit. It was a little bit taken out of context. I
Well,
think
of course,
the risk,
it's a tweet, 140 characters out of an hour-long talk.
the risk to the business is really the remediation that has to happen if that device becomes compromised and it has corporate data on it.
Okay.
Right. So I use the example of my 103-year-old grandmother, who is actually 103.
Wow.
And if I had a picture of my 103-year-old grandmother on my device, which I don't, bad grandson. But if I did, and my device gets compromised, and then my partner Rich says, we got to blow that device away, and my picture is gone, that would create some problems. Angst. Certainly, it's well within the rights of the organization to do that, because anytime you allow something to connect to your network, you want to have the ability to wipe that out. But more my point is the importance of being able to selectively wipe devices if they're going to be an employee's own device with their own personal data on it.
Right. That's when you start puzzling it out, that's a heck of a problem, because how often do people actually back up their devices? Now that we've got things like cloud synchronization going on, it's more likely that things like pictures you've taken recently will be backed up somewhere. But it's just as likely that you'll blow away half a year's worth of photographs.
You bet, and that's a huge risk, and that's why the whole policy process and acceptance of that policy process is critical to doing this at an enterprise scale. Because if the employee doesn't know that that's an option, if they don't consciously make a decision that says, if something bad happens to my device, or if I more realistically, if I lose that device, and they wipe that, and then I find it because it's in my garage, or my kid hides it, or whatever the issue is,
that never happens.
That's never been known to happen to me either. So, and again, the employees really need to understand the ramifications of connecting the device to the network and accessing corporate data, which I don't think a lot of people or enough organizations do systematically, and that's going to be a problem.
Okay, so because you are part of the awesome gang at Securosis,
we have shirts. We must be a real company.
You've done this as formal research within the organization, and because Securosis might be the most awesome analysis organization, certainly in the security industry, potentially ever, there is no quadranting involved.
No.
I'm guessing that this research is available. There's a white paper.
Well, we haven't packaged it up as a paper yet, so that's going to be one of the things that's on my research agenda for later on in this year, is to document a lot of the things that I presented as part of the session today here at SecTor. I'm probably going to be doing the session also down at B-Sides Atlanta, so for those of you in the Southeast, come see it. I'm going to do it. It'll be a little bit different format, much more interactive, along with the B-Sides mentality. But it is something
Canadians are quiet.
Yeah. Southeasterners are, awful nice, and they talk with that nice drawl. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what's that going to cost for people to get their hands on? When you assemble the white paper?
Oh, a grand total of $0, right? Because due to the largesse of many of our licensees, we do not charge for a lot of the research that we do.
That's really the kind of awesomest point out of it. And hey, it's a big part of why I do stuff for Securosis too. Do you have anything else that you want to tell us that you think is really important for people who are, part of our audience, actually a fairly large part of our audience, are people who are working their way up through it. Because you've got this background as the pragmatic one, and if you haven't read that book and you're doing security stuff,
fail.
Just
we were just on
do it.
That's a fail.
Do you have any advice for people who are working their way up through into InfoSec? If they could spend an hour a week doing something, what would that hour be best spent on?
Well, there are a couple things. One, you got to become a good public speaker, right? Because being able to communicate a message, and even if it's one-on-one, a lot of those techniques that you learn in terms of communicating to a larger audience are very applicable and critical to doing security well.
Right.
So I would say go to Toastmasters or, speak at your church, or whatever you're going to do.
Right.
Kind of get out in front of people, get comfortable in front of people, making a case and telling a story. I would also say spend as much time with your boss and your boss's boss and probably your boss's boss's boss as you can. Right, getting that kind of face time, getting that exposure, understanding what some of their issues are. Because again, when you're kind of just getting into this, you tend to be very operational. What changes do I have to make? What do I have to get done today? I have a list. If I don't get through that list, I don't get to play. Right, so having those kind of conversations early on in your career gives you a much broader perspective of the problems that managers, directors, and VPs worry about. So again, you can ask them to become your mentor. There are a lot of different ways to get face time with these folks, but I think that's absolutely critical as well, just so that you don't look at things from the purity of a technical standpoint, because then things are pretty much right and wrong, black and white. Right. Once you kind of climb the proverbial ladder, things get a lot more murky.
Things get murky the higher you go. Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of Minecraft.
Yeah.
That's good. So you just come off of spending an hour as a stunt member of the Liquidmatrix team.
And by the way, Matty J said I'm better looking than him, which is a falsity. The man, Brittany, is a lucky lady.
Yeah, I was going to say lucky or really, really good at taking risks. So after
she lives in Houston, man. Come on.
So after spending an hour as the stunt Matt, there's an unfortunate duty that you must undertake. And I know that you don't listen to podcasts because you don't have that kind of time. You can read faster than you can listen. Yes. We get that. But there's a tradition on the Liquidmatrix podcast.
Does it involve me wearing my pants?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The non-pants wearing members of Securosis are not here.
Okay.
And some of us are very thankful for that. The deal is at the end of the podcast, because Matt's young and he thinks it's hip, he refers to the protege of Dick Clark and says, "Seacrest out." So unfortunately, to end this segment, we're going to have to get you to do it. Matt J, stunt Matt J.
Okay. I'm game. Seacrest out.
All right. And with that, folks, we've reached the end of yet another.
I feel dirty.
That's exactly what Matt says all the time, actually. I think he likes it that way, though. We've reached the end of yet another snippet session from SecTor. This has been the Liquidmatrix Security Digest podcast, television snippets from SecTor episode. I can't remember the number. Thank you all for watching.
Honestly, I can't think of one situation where I would actually listen to a podcast. But if I were to listen to any kind of podcast, I would absolutely listen to my buddies at Liquidmatrix, who do the most kick-assiest rock and roll podcast out there.